Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Samurai Brothers. This is episode 68 of our podcast, and happy MLK Day to all those who might have the day off. And so we're going to talk today. We got a couple things, Matthew, to talk about. Obviously, some of the big ones. We've got the Hatsu Basho and Sumo. It's going on right now, so we are now on day 9 completed. So we're going to kind of go over how things are going in the top division. And then the new Onepiece chapter did come out this weekend, so we are going to talk about chapter 1171. And then lastly, there was a big duel that happened about a week and a half ago, and just kind of want to talk about the results of that and kind of just the direction of those two programs and maybe even D1 wrestling itself. But Matthew, let's get right into it. Day 9 of the Hatsubasho. And so I kind of felt that this guy was going to be doing somewhat pretty good. But it turns out that yes, it is kind of happening like it is. The leader of the pack after day 9 is Sekiwake Kirishima, and he did have a pretty good Basho last Basho because I think he finished 11-4, got his got a Kanto show with that, and based on how everyone was ranked above him, he just leapfrogged right from M2 to the East Sekiwake slot. So he is leading. And then behind him are Shin Ozeki, New Ozeki, Aonishiki at 7-2, followed by a lot of rank and filer Maegashiras, Atami Fuji, Fujinokawa, Abi, Shishi, and Oshomi. The Yokozuna at this point are 6-3, and so is Ozeki Kotozakura. Now, let's kind of go into how we're looking at with the Basho so far, Matthew, your breakdown of it.
The thing I definitely know about with Onosato is the fact that he is dealing with a left shoulder injury that is the result of last Basho's match with Aonishiki that actually put him out of the last day and then paved the way for Aonishiki to uh win the playoff against Hoshoryu. Not sure what's happening with Hoshoryu. I think he might have a little bit of a right knee issue.
I think it's the left knee, but yes, it is a knee issue. I was hearing of some about it was either the meniscus or the ACL. So
Yeah,
not not
so
great.
they started off strong and then things have kind of been
The
not
wear and
going
tear.
well as they've been both handed out Kinboshi. So
Yes, in fact, they both have, and I think if I'm going to look at the records really quick, I think they have both. And the really bad thing going on right now is they both have lost on days 8 and 9. So that's really not a great situation they're in right now. Now, Hoshoryu has handed out 3 Kimboshi because he's lost all rank and filers. Onosato, even though he did lose on day 9, it was to Wakamoto Haru, who is a Komusubi. So he's at 2 Kimboshi losses for the Basho. But it's still not good because both men looked pretty powerless on their day 9 losses. But I think for Onosato on day 8, I think that it definitely the injury I think got worse because at the Tachiai against Hakuno Fuji when I was seeing the replay and Hakuno Fuji, although probably not intending to, it looks like he did hit the shoulder on the Tachiai charge, and that you could tell that Onosato was in pain.
yeah, you see him visibly wince, and walking out, you see him visibly in pain. So
So I get the feeling that if I was to go to Vegas, I would be willing to wager money that at least Onosato will probably go Kyujo. Maybe he might try to, tough it out and get at least a Kachikoshi. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't see
surprised
him.
after that last one that he wasn't I'm surprised that he didn't drop out after day 8.
Yeah, and he may want to opt for the corrective surgery if it's applicable in this case, because
Well,
obviously,
how severe of an injury is it?
well, he dislocated it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not great.
Well,
Anyway,
at least Aonishiki is of the top 4 guys. At least Aonishiki is
yeah, and Kotozakura kind of had, he's had his ups and downs. Now,
well, he's at the same record as the Yokozuna. He's 6-3.
yes, yes. Yeah. Aonishiki lost to Oho and Kirishima. So Oho, I think he's been kind of somewhat Oho is really like, yes, he's very
Oho's
up
up
and
and
down.
down.
You
It
don't
depends on which Oho shows up. Is basically what it comes down to.
now him
He's
losing to
he's
Kish,
he's either really good or he's inconsistent. He's either
yeah,
really good or he stinks.
yeah. Aonishiki losing to Kirishima, I was not surprised by it because he's been hot. He's leading the pack after 8-1. On day 9.
That, and if you look at what Kirishima did, he did. There's been I've seen a lot of fans and in the sumo community speculating that at some point people would figure out what Aonishiki's game and basically start countering it, and then he'd basically become irrelevant. Aonishiki did exactly what those people were saying. Kirishima did exactly to Aonishiki what he was saying. He stayed low, brought him out of his stance.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, Aonishiki tried several of his moves that sometimes work, like he tried a leg trip and he tried the the um the head throw, the
Mm-hmm.
kubinage, but those both Kirishima, yeah, was just on his game.
Yeah. So,
But
obviously,
that's just something that I don't feel too many of the other guys can do. Ono Sato, when he's healthy, has Aonishiki's number because
mm-hmm.
he's got a winning record against him. But
Yeah.
most other people, like he's got a winning record against Kotozakura. He's got a winning record against
Paul showed you.
yeah, he's 4-0, including the playoff.
Yeah.
So he's just so much better at what he does at his style of sumo that most people haven't been able to get it done. And it's not for lack of trying.
Right.
Because again, you've got Onosato who knows what to do. You got Hoshoryu who probably knows what to do, but hasn't been able to pull it off.
So here's one thing I would like to say before we move on to our next topic. I think though we probably have a couple of early candidates for the Shukun show, which is the outstanding performance. And normally that's given to either whoever beat the Yusho winner or if they got a lot of wins against Yokozuna and Ozeki. And I would
Yoshino
definitely
Fuji, probably.
Yoshino Fuji definitely on that list. He's the only one who's defeated both Yokozuna, although Atami Fuji will face Onosato for day 10. So, and Atami Fuji actually is hot because he lost his first 2 days and he's on a 7-win streak.
Yeah, and he beat Hoshoryu and earned
beat
his first
Hoshoryu
Kimboshi.
for his first Kimboshi. But if you look at it, Atami Fuji has a winning record against Hoshoryu, which is interesting in and of itself.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I mean, they haven't gone against each other a lot recently because Atami Fuji, as we know, kind of stayed stationary and then kind of went down, whereas Hoshoryu,
Hmm.
went
Yeah.
up.
So if I was to, see who now, yeah, I'd say Yoshino Fuji, Hakuno Fuji, and Atami Fuji, which ironically they're all Isegahama guys. I
Well,
think they're all.
two of them were Miyagino imports, but yeah, that's well, and that's another thing. That's well, let's see. Only Atami Fuji is the in the running, right?
Well, I mean, he's got a way better record than Hakuno Fuji and Yoshino Fuji. They're both 5-4, so they could still finish Kachikoshi.
Well, what I
Um,
was gonna say is it probably helps that those three guys don't have to go against each other.
that's a big thing, yes. Atami Fuji still has to go against the Ozeki. He hasn't gotten there yet, but I mean, obviously, I'd put him in the running for a Shukun show, but definitely Hakuno Fuji and Yoshino Fuji, if they can get Kachikoshi, I would not be surprised if they could get, the Shukun show also, considering that, they've beaten Yokozuna and Ozeki. So that
Yeah,
would be my.
yeah. The Isagahamaya is definitely still a powerhouse, and
Yeah,
just
they're
just
still there.
Tedano Fuji retired didn't mean that they were irrelevant.
Nope, not at all.
Even yeah, well, if you look at it, even with hypothetically speaking, say Miyagino was able to become independent again, that's still three guys in the upper division.
Yep.
Nishiki Fuji, Atami Fuji, and Midori Fuji. So
Yeah, they've still got a lot of guys. So anyway, yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, we're kind of, we didn't really get a chance to talk last week, but Matthew, I'd say at this point, who's your front runner for the U show? While we still have time.
I'll still stick with Aonishiki. I think I think Kirishima will lose one more match. Aonishiki's going to keep going and then playoff.
Yeah,
The way
I was thinking the same.
the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a playoff because well, unless they're able to match up all those guys against they've matched up a few of them.
Mhm.
But I think it's going to be a point where yeah, some of these guys are going to be matched up against, they're going to be matched up against each other.
Yep.
But we'll see how things go.
I think also it's going to be Ao Nishiki winning. I think Kirishima will take the Jun Yusho, so I think we're kind of in agreement with that.
Yeah.
So, all right,
But we
cool.
shouldn't count out Kirishima completely. For all we know, he could win the rest of his matches.
Yep. All right, so here we go. We are now going to move into One Piece Chapter 1171. This is the aftermath of Harold has died due to having been taken out by his own son, who ate the mythical fruit, which we don't know what it is yet, but we do know that it's supposed to be some kind of Zoan. Now, obviously, the castle is in chaos. A lot of guards who were killed off by Harold. But Scopper has been explaining that yes, there was a way to stop him. However, even Jarul was not privy to the strength or the scope of what what it could do in that sense. But it's the fact that Harold had a vision that he thought would be able to help Elbaf in the future, and Shanks is having to reminisce about that. But there's a panel that comes up where, and it looks like that, yes, that Garling was so desperate to find Shanks, and he's telling him about, obviously you can tell how Garling is a world noble because he says, "Speak, and your desire, whatever it is, you shall have it. You've been so deprived, my poor son. Those miserable peons are not people. Forget what happened in the lower world." So I think this confirms that yes, even if somehow, but of course it could only be because it's Garling. But somehow if a person is born to a world noble, between a world noble and a commoner, there is still a chance that they can become a world noble because they have that lineage.
Yeah, which means what's her name? Which if you think about means Bonnie technically could be considered a world noble, but it sounds like the parent, and in most cases that we've seen the father. I don't know if
Yeah.
we have not seen a a commoner man and a
Male
world
male
noble
commoner.
woman. We have
Yeah.
not seen that matchup. We've seen multiple
Instances.
noble men and women, but clearly well, it's also clearly is a situation where they clearly have to claim the child as their own because
Yeah.
whoever Bonnie's father was did not claim him. So she's
Yep.
not considered a world noble.
Yep.
Whereas Shanks and Garling are
Hmm.
or Shanks with Garling and Shamrock with Garling, he actually claimed them as his sons.
Yep. So
Don't know what Shank's status is since he's openly become a pirate.
yeah. So however, Shank's obviously ashamed of what's going on, but Scopper has to reassure him that it's not his fault, that he doesn't have to regret his birth. Um but obviously, so Shanks is now upset about the fact that Harold had to go through what he went through. Um but Scopper has to assure him that there's still a role to play and everyone's life has meaning, but need to keep a level head. Obviously, we've got Loki mourning the death of his father. Now, here's where things get interesting because we go back to Pangea Castle, and it looks like, based on the conversation that the Elder Stars, the Gorose, are having with Emu. Obviously, Emu is upset by the fact that Harold got taken out, and Emu and the elders are trying to figure out what specifically it was that took out Harold. Um, but here's the interesting thing, because one of them mentions that Harold's abyss in Elbaf remains intact. However, Emu decides against sending more knights through the abyss, because what I found interesting is the fact that performing the covenant inflicts a cost upon Mu as well. Mu is how Emu refers to himself,
And
itself,
he
whatever.
coughs.
Right.
This is the first time
Yeah.
we've seen him show any kind of a weakness.
Yes. So this could be, so obviously, the covenant is a very, um, it takes a lot of energy, um, and strength in order to do that. And so it sounds like it you know, it takes a lot to send knights through the abyss also. So that could be seen as a potential weakness in Emu.
Yeah, clearly it's they keep referring to themselves as immortal. They're clearly not. If, for
Right.
example, as we saw,
Yeah. So what Emu is also pointing out is that,
well, and let's also be honest, the God's Knights, because God's Knights positions opening up has to be one of two things. They either get promoted, which there isn't a whole lot of upward mobility, or they're dying.
mhm.
So it is they're not like the position that Shanks and Harold are both open to. Someone, well, it probably could have been Garling, but a position for Garling would have had to have opened up as well, which means that someone, and as we know, there weren't a whole lot of promotions going on with the five elders, so someone died. Clearly, they're
Yeah.
not they're not invisible. They're not immortal.
Well, that has to mean that whoever was the supreme commander of the God Knights eventually died also.
Right.
So yes, you are probably right about that.
Well, and then
So
as we see, they're not immune from aging.
right. Yeah,
because
Saturn.
because uh yeah, they're not immune from aging. It's because Garling has aged, and
Right. So, Emu points out that, this was a very once in a lifetime opportunity, with Harold trying to get Elbaf to, join the world government. So obviously Emu tells the Gorose to find out what happened. And these next words, never forget that Elbaf is D. Now, people are saying that, oh yeah, that means that Elbaf is a D clan. This means, I mean, obviously it puts a lot more perspective into it, but it's like, okay, so does that mean that everyone else who's D descended from Elbaf? I don't think so.
here's what I think. I think maybe, well, because D has been a very loose thing. It's like there's indications that it probably had to do with it that it might have had to do with original pirates and stuff like that, with with the
Davy.
Davy clan and Joy Boy and stuff like that. But it also has a connection with the ancient kingdom. So here's what I think. I think by him saying that, it means that Elbaf was at minimum an ally of the ancient kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that the ancient kingdom is probably going to have a name that starts with D.
Well, I think everyone's kind of figured that for a long time, but yes, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
So
Um,
Elbaf was probably an ally, and it could have been one of those situations where it was a similar system to the world government.
yeah.
So it was, the ancient kingdom had if it had an umbrella, and if you were aligned with it, you were a D. Like how
So
Skypea. Yeah. So
yeah. So Loki, and I think we all kind of saw this coming, but Loki tells everyone who's there not to say not to say anything about what happened because he doesn't want to paint his father in a negative light. He wants his father to be regarded as a great king. And he decides that he's going to take a band of soldiers with him to go out and try to fight the world government. Obviously, we see how that turns out because it
that's
didn't.
probably also his way of honoring rocks.
Right. So obviously now we see that Loki has told Hildine what happened here. And obviously Scopper, who was key witness to that, is backing up Loki's version of the event. However, so now we see that Hildine has come to understand what's been going on. So with that, that means that Hildine allows for Loki's chains to be removed, and um, he's obviously apologizing to Loki for how he's treated him, and he's asking him now to fight with him for Elbaf's sake. Look like things are now, and then obviously we have the Draugr fall down from the upper world, and now we see that so Haldane is going to take his crew back up to the upper world to go fight up there, and Loki, now that he's free, prepares to take on the Draugr. Um, and he's using Ragnir, so now it's this we see here that he hits the Draugr and he cracks him up just like he did with Harold. So we see that this is a very big power. And I think obviously Luffy is riding Loki. So I think what this means is that I think, you know, now it's not 100% guaranteed, but, I think it's pointing to all the signs. It's like Luffy wants Loki on his team.
There's still the logistics issue, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a huge logistics issue. So with that being said, the new chapter 1172 is going to be coming out in 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. So
So we'll see. We'll finally get back into
yep.
proper.
Yeah, we can see now that the flashback is officially over as of this chapter. So now yes. And I'm getting the feeling that I'd say probably within the next 2 to 3 months, I think this could be over.
Yeah, because
This arc.
because as we pointed out, Elbaf was not originally planned to be an arc.
Yeah.
They were gonna go straight into they were gonna go straight into the what's it called, the final saga. So this well Elbaf pretty much is a part of the final saga. So
It is,
they
yeah,
they,
but
they were gonna, yeah, but they were gonna go more in that direction. So
the sailing part, yeah.
yeah, the sailing part. So we're
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, the reality is you can't spend too much time. This is probably Emu probably is not gonna make his final stand here again against Luffy. He's probably gonna try to there's probably gonna be a point where he tries there's definitely gonna be a combat between Luffy and Emu. That's just gonna be a given, but he's probably gonna realize I can't afford to fight him to the death here and now.
You're
Because
right.
we still don't know what the details are with why Marijois is burning. So there's
Yeah,
going to be a
we
point
don't.
where he's basically going to have to cut his losses and say, okay, we just need to get as many forces as we can back there. Screw this. This is a lost cause. We'll we'll deal with this later, but we can't. There's gonna be a point where he realizes they're going where he realizes Straw Hats are going full circle. They're too powerful for us. We have too few forces to make a last stand here. I need all hands on deck and Marijois. So there's gonna be a point where he basically tells the God Knights there, okay, I need you guys back here. This isn't worth it anymore. It's where we're not gonna win here. Just cut our losses. We'll deal with this later, but we need you right now.
Yeah. Okay,
That motivation is going to force a retreat.
so obviously last actually um yesterday Penn State wrestling they dueled Northwestern at Northwestern and they beat them handily 51-0. However, the duel we want to talk about today in this episode is the duel that happened on Friday the 16th, which was Iowa, and it looks like this was part of a tour because um, they were dueled Iowa at Iowa. So it makes sense that they're kind of traveling around a bit um, in that sense. But here's the thing. Um, the This duel was clearly not close compared to recent years. The final score of this duel was 32-3, which means that um, Iowa only won one match in their home arena. And I think that speaks volumes as to just the direction that these two teams are going. Now, I read a lot about, and you've explained it to on this podcast before about just the different philosophies that are going on here. Kale, as everyone has been pointing out, he's focusing on the matches themselves, the action, the a lot of scoring. He's trying to get the guys to be, completing the moves and such. Iowa is just we're gonna somehow get around it. We have to be, there's got to be a lot of grit. We have to, finish it no matter what type of thing. And so a lot of people are pointing out that the two mentalities are driving the wedge that we're seeing here with this kind of blowout in Iowa at Iowa's home arena. your thoughts on this, Matthew.
So here's the thing. As I've said before, here, let me, because I'm gonna do a lot of talking. Um, so I, so here was the thing. Gable was both a technical and hard, workhorse uh type wrestler, and he taught that to with the coaching as well. The Iowa philosophy ended up going more towards that workhorse style mentality. The problem is you could be the toughest, you could be the most in shape person, but if someone's better than you technically, um, all the hard work isn't gonna do much. And that's just even though Brands did win an Olympic gold medal, and he was is a multiple time national champion at Iowa, that's just what he ended up focusing on. More is he just focused more on the just workhorse hard, work hard mentality. But Kale, on the other hand, is more of a technical wrestler and is more of a smarter, not harder wrestler. That's going to beat just bam, 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 work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, put everything into it. That's going to beat that. So that's basically what it's come down to, is that but then also there's the wrestling's changed. The portal has as much as we've talked about the portal, and it's irritating, and we went a completely different direction, and it doesn't seem like it seems like school loyalty is dead. I'm sorry to say, but that just seems like one of those things that has played in as well, is because everyone wants to go to Kale. Everyone wants to wrestle with Kale because he's producing, because you're most likely gonna be a team champion. You're most and if you make the lineup, you're most likely gonna be at least an All-American, possibly a national champion as well. So that's basically where things have gone. And then, as you pointed out, he doesn't have these really tough wrestling schedules. He only has his guys wrestle a few tournaments a year, and
Well,
then
actually, on their schedule this year, they only went to the Black Knight Invitational hosted by West Point, and that was in November. So everything else from here, it's all duels. They've only got, after this weekend, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more duels, and then they go to the Big Ten championships. That's it.
yeah, and well, you'd think that not wrestling that much would it wouldn't be beneficial, because you have the concept of I'll call it Matt Rust in this situation, but it's clearly working. Because it's well, and I think probably the thing that he focuses on is maybe that he doesn't put as much wear and tear on his primary guys. Like with those duels, he might have won consecutively, but he's probably smart enough to where he's like, you know what, if I can afford to put one of my guys at this weight class versus that weight class to allow my primary guy to heal, then he's gonna do that. But then also another thing is he is even though he's probably got a lot of duels going on, that's who X number of matches you don't have to wrestle, and then that's X number of weight cuts you don't have to do.
Yeah, because for example, Iowa's schedule, and so they did one duel, and then they went to the Luther Open in November. Now that was in Iowa, so the state of Iowa, so it was close by. And then they did the national duels, so that means that they did do quite a few matches for those, because that was 4 duels that they had. They did then go to the Jim Koch Wisconsin Open. So that's technically three tournaments now. And then they host the Soldier Salute. So that's four tournaments that they've done. And that was a 2-day event. So that means that they would have done weight cutting there too.
So yeah, that's that because that's another thing. And the reality is you and I both know you have a bad weight cut, that's gonna affect your match.
Yeah.
And you know and the way that duels go as it is, you have to wrestle an hour after they have to start the match an hour after weigh-ins.
Hmm.
So well, I'm sure it looks like Kale probably doesn't have his guys do major weight cuts. That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
That,
Um,
that probably helps as well. But yeah, if you're but then also something else as well is that weight cuts, even though at tournaments you get 2 hours after your weight cut, that's that's still a weight cut. And then so you're cutting weight, and then on top of that you're having to wrestle. So the reality is your endurance is sapped from a weight cut. That's so. And you and I both try to avoid doing major weight cuts as much as possible, and so that's just one of those situations where it's just better to try not to do that, um because
yep.
it wears on you quickly.
Well, with that being said, we are now out of time for today. But yes, Matthew, thank you very much for that insight. Obviously, we'll see how it goes because I think, Big Ten championships will be taking place next month, and I think it's going to be very indicative of who's going to take that national title. So, with that being said, everyone, I want to thank you again for tuning in, and we will be seeing you next week and talk about the end of the Basho, maybe some more wrestling updates. So, with that, take care.